Here's a marketing challenge for you. Imagine you being in a space where nobody wakes up in the morning going, hey, I need your tool today. Well, that's exactly my next guest's challenge. She's playing in a space that's around clearinghouses. We all need them, and for a lot of us, it's just background. Except 2 years ago, when they were thrust into the spotlight for not a great reason. And all of a sudden, they had to scramble and do some things. I'm gonna dive into that with my next guest to get what happened, how they navigated it, and how they came out the other side stronger than ever. I'm about to sit down with Stephanie from Claim.MD, and I'm excited to ask her these questions. Let's get to it. Well, Stephanie, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Colin. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited for you because we're gonna get into an area that I don't have a chance to dive into too much. But for the benefit of our audience, Stephanie, can you let us know what you do at Claim.MD?
Absolutely. So me personally, I am the head of marketing and communications with Claim.MD. We are a medical claims clearinghouse. So as far as, do you want to dive into what a clearinghouse is?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Stephanie. What is a claims clearinghouse?
That is a great question, and a lot of times we like to kind of be in the background. Typically, we don't really get seen, and so not a lot of people know what a clearinghouse is, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But we are the delivery service between the providers, the physicians, the clinicians, and the insurance companies, the payers, to get the providers paid, to make sure that their claims are being taken and delivered correctly, to make sure that everything is nice and clean as it goes out and then is brought back the right way. And that's a very basic understanding, but we're kind of a fancy delivery service. But we also do some other aspects as well, as far as eligibility checks, verifications, to make sure that those processes also move very quickly and seamlessly for the providers, so they don't have to know that we're in the background handling all that, making those processes simple. And a lot of times clearinghouses, even on the front end, while we might be competing for business, we do work together on the back end in a lot of ways. So that's what a clearinghouse is.
Well, and this is part of the reason why I was excited to sit down with you, because you operate in an area where you're supposed to blend in the background. You're not the front end. You're
Right.
not something that an end user or a patient is going to see. You're vital, obviously, to the function of a health system. So as a marketer, how do you tackle this kind of positioning where you are truly part of the back end?
It is definitely an interesting experience to kind of bring us into the light for the marketing purposes, while also understanding that because we do live in the background, there is an educational portion of it that I do have the responsibility of teaching people what is the clearinghouse side and why do you need one in the first place. There are some providers that they do it themselves. There are medical billing companies that they handle it themselves. But when it comes to how many connections that are out there and relationships that providers will have to establish to be able to have these clean routes to be able to run their claims, it just gets to be too much. So I have to kind of do the education part, and then you can forget about us once we're integrated, maybe with an EHR system or an EMR system that you use. And so once we're set up, you can kind of have hands off, unless you are using us in a way that you can go in and fill out the claims yourself. So a lot of education, of course, using the different channels that we all are a part of, but I'm finding that making connections with some of the thought leaders in the space, coming out to places like HIMSS, where we're making relationships with people where the education portion is getting to be dispersed in that way through some of the more heavy hitters in the space. So
I mean, it's funny you say that, babe, because even though we're in a digital world, it's that relationship with you and the thought leaders that is important, right? And it's so hard to establish those relationships purely online. You have to come to events like this to start that wheel rolling, and then you can move it online and do the virtual stuff and things like that. So it's actually encouraging to hear you say that.
Yes, I mean, it's funny because our company is a fully remote company, and at the same time, you'll feel with Claim.MD that it also is very relationship based. And so when we get to have these opportunities to come to HIMSS or some of the other conferences that we do throughout the year, it ends up being very this is kind of moments where it shines as far as the relationships that we're always trying to nurture and kind of meet people in that way. So it's really exciting to get to meet and shake real hands and get to talk to people and laugh. And it's a great experience. And then it forges these bonds that do carry over so well into the digital space. So it's kind of, we have all this beautiful technology that we are getting to leverage in the healthcare space, but we can never just forget and lose that humanity that connects us, that makes the healthcare space so much better.
Now, Stephanie, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Because,
okay.
A couple of years ago, of course, we had that Change.Health incident where it went down, couldn't process any claims, and you're in that world. But what do you think we took from that incident, if anything?
So that's a great question. I actually had been in the space for a very short time when that happened, and it was a lot of learning and seeing the chaos that ensued. And then, of course, what were the lessons that we learned afterwards? I think that, for one, as I said, clearinghouses like to be in the background. That, of course, changed when that happened, where there was a bright light on what's a clearinghouse and how did this affect me, and why did it stop certain portions of my flow.
Right.
So there was, we're talking about education earlier, there was this big moment of learning about what a clearinghouse is from this very detrimental event that was very unfortunate, of course, where there were conversations about what a clearinghouse is, what do they actually do for you, really kind of exploring that for people that maybe didn't even know they had one in the background of their system that was integrated, that they did never tap into that. So that was a huge one. And then, of course, talking about cybersecurity became the big topic, which is an ongoing battle. Every time we feel like we've made headway of protecting ourselves, there's always somebody that potentially could do a better job of unraveling that. So we're always trying to keep up with sort of these security checks that are hopefully keeping our data safe. But a big thing that we took away from that we want to have this conversation about is what sort of led to the collapse and the breach that really led to the harm that it did, and that that sort of chaos for a lot of providers, where they saw stopping their cash flow. And it was sort of this bottleneck that happened where a lot of routes were being channeled through this one group, Change, and when they went down, of course, that hurdle that hurt everybody's entire ecosystem. So the way that we've been explaining it is, it's kind of like when you have an island and you only have one bridge on and off, and there's no other way to get to that island. There's no ports, there's no landing strip, it's just that bridge. And if only one bridge is there, and I live in Florida, so we have hurricanes that cause all kinds of fun chaos for us. And I've seen it in real life of, well, if there's one bridge on and off and it goes down, how do we get off? How do we save the people? How do we get them the support they need? And that was really what we saw happen, that highlighted to us this idea of strategic redundancy, and having multiple clearinghouses at one time, if you are a large enough payer, to safeguard those providers that are under your umbrella.
Yeah, I mean, I have empathy for all of you that were in that space at that time, because suddenly you were thrust into the spotlight for not a good reason, and then having to educate partially the public who's not familiar with this at all, but then also healthcare insiders that go, hey, like, I didn't realize all of us were kind of going across this one bridge behind the scenes. Right. So yeah, I mean, so it sounds like in order to navigate through that, you did a lot of education. You had to go really kind of be proactive on educating the public.
Yeah, and we had to kind of go out and find providers. A lot of times it was sort of this rescue mission of who can we help, and there were some that they were stuck on the island and there wasn't anything that anybody could do to help them. But where we went and tried to seek out providers, that was like, hey, if you don't have this that was keeping you on the island, we can help. And wherever our relationship goes from there, that's fine. But we can start the cash flow up again. We can start your revenue, because there were people that, they dipped into their savings to stay alive. They had to take out loans. It was obviously a huge impact on people's entire dynamics, where I saw doctors' offices close sometimes. So that was our mission. And then along with that came this piece of reflecting on, how did this even happen in the first place, and what can we take away from it that will maybe help next time. And having a second clearinghouse to run those claims through was like, we need to talk about this. This is important. If you're a large enough payer, this is critical for you.
Is that, in your mind, Stephanie, the key takeaway from that event? That, hey, you need this, I think you called it strategic redundancy. Is that kind of the message you think that we should be learning from that?
That's a huge one to us, from being a fellow clearinghouse, because as I said in the beginning, while we might be competing for business on the front end, on the back end, we are all a network. We all kind of work together to have these highways work with each other, where if somebody can't carry the claim the rest of the way, just like a postman, okay, we hand it off to FedEx. That's what we do with one another. And if it becomes this, again, bottleneck where we're not able to interact and work with each other and also provide this secondary route for these payers, we saw what the chaos was, and there is a way to try and alleviate that, because nothing is ever foolproof. I mean, we all are very proud of ourselves. We all take security very seriously. We all work hard, but nothing is 100%, unfortunately. And so this really highlighted to us, this is an actionable item that is definitely doable. So payers, look at your contracting, see if there is an exclusivity that is there that could impact you in this way again, because we already went through it. We know what happens. We've experienced it. This is not hypothetical anymore. And for providers, empowering them of, these are the contracts that payers that you work with do have to make on your behalf. Ask the questions. You might not have the same kind of level of control over what the contracting is, but you have every right as a provider. When you sign up with an EHR or an EMR, you ask questions there. We should ask questions of your clearinghouse, ask questions of the payers that are making those contracts on your behalf, especially the larger ones that handle a large portion of your claims. Don't be afraid to ask that and see what they're doing to protect you in that space. And do they know that that is a vulnerability there?
Now, Stephanie, in this area of healthcare, as you explained, it's behind the scenes. So people don't wake up thinking, oh, I need a new clearinghouse or an additional clearinghouse today. And on top of that, health IT is so busy and noisy. I mean, we're here at HIMSS, there's a ton of noise, because not only are you competing for attention against your competitors, you've got all the other health IT stuff that's going on as well. How do you stand out as Claim.MD?
That is a great question too. There definitely is the noise there, and I think going back to relationships, that is a huge piece that we love to explore and build on, where there are people that are more knowledgeable than I am, that they interact with my world in different ways and can impact the space by just speaking out on certain things, on connecting with Claim.MD and being able to relay our mission. And so it comes down to relationships with even our systems, our vendors. We do the same thing, where we want it to feel like a relationship that you want to stay. It shouldn't just, even though you sign up for your clearinghouse and then you leave it in the background, we don't want you to feel like you're ever forgotten. We don't want it to feel like you signed up and now, like, hands off, you're never going to hear from a human again. Because we have all this wonderful technology, we have AI that's a part of everything, and that's all incredible. But we are still humans at the end of the day. We are craving community. That's what we're all doing here right now, is we want to connect with each other. Even if we're remote most of the time, we want to see another human being and get to talk face to face and know, like, oh, you are real. That's great. So really, to stand out, I think it comes back always again and again of not forgetting your own humanity, and then speaking to people in that way. And it might not reach everybody. LinkedIn is a great place, always saturated. Social media is going to be saturated. But if you can find messaging that connects the human to human aspect, even as tech to tech, I think that's how we stand out, and we really treasure that as a company. And that's always what is in the forefront of our minds. Our owner, our president, Rob, he always says, our hearts are always with the provider first. When the Change breach happened, that was one of the first most prominent things that I learned about this company, because again, I was pretty new. And that was what I ran with. That was the message in my brain every time I was doing any kind of outreach. And that is still what I live with today, of, do they feel like our heart is with them in that moment? Are they feeling like they're the ones that are cared for? I don't care how large you are, how small you are, everything. That's not the point. The point is that if you know that we care about you, that translates also down into patient care. And that's what we're all here. That's what it's all about, right? So as long as we keep that messaging and that humanity behind it, I think that's how so all the channels that we do, the blogging, all the marketing that we do every day, it's the heart behind it, I think, that really impacts the most, and people feel it. And then we have people stay with us forever. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, and it sounds like, Stephanie, you're a big advocate of in-person events. I mean, maybe not always hymns or anything like that, but because it's really hard to convey that level of caring, that level just purely digitally.
Yes.
Right? So I always find that it's better to establish the highway, if you will, of a relationship in person. And then you can switch to digital after that, because I've met you, we've had a conversation, we have a shared experience, maybe at a conference together, and that becomes so much easier to do. Of course, you can do it digitally; it just takes a little longer.
Yeah.
But is that, am I correct in assuming that in person is a component of your marketing?
Absolutely. We really revved up getting to be a part of a lot of different events, whether it's just attending and getting to just be a part of everything and saying hello to people. And sometimes we'll have booths, or we'll be sponsors, we'll be exhibitors. But in those cases, a lot of times we'll see our own clients and customers come up to us, and we get to meet them face to face. And it's this very exciting moment where we can ask each other questions and they can share stories. And even virtually, making it a priority and I try to connect with some of our vendors as far as just having conversations. It's not to sell you, it's not to, add, something onto your bill. It's simply just to, how has your experience been? What happened that brought you here? And just know, and I've gotten the chance to hear stories that, we're a clearinghouse, we're in the background, but we changed somebody's life because they were working nonstop and stressed, and they hadn't taken a vacation in 2 years, and because they onboarded with us and it was easy and it made their life so much easier, they took a vacation for the first time with their wife. And these really wonderful stories. We were almost about to close, and then and then we onboarded with you, and again, I get to connect that. So in person is amazing. If you have the opportunity to do it, to me, it's always worth it. Again, we crave it, and once we get here and we get to have these conversations, we're like, oh, we should do this more. Even if I am a proponent of remote, I love it, and what we're able to do because of it, the talent we're able to get is incredible. But if you have the opportunity to attend events where you can connect with others, already I've gotten to meet so many people just by standing in a line waiting for food, and I've gotten to meet a powerhouse in, even with hymns, or in the lawmaking space, the policy holders, just these really incredible people that shape the world that I'm in, and I just happen to be standing next to them, and there's something beautiful about these happenstances.
Serendipitous.
Yes, and then now I'll get to talk to you hopefully for a very long time, and we'll have a dynamic from there, and whatever comes of it, maybe we'll make a bigger change together.
There you go. Well, Stephanie, is there anything when you look across the healthcare marketing landscape that's got you excited? Is there any channel, any technology, any procedure, workflow that you're like, wow, I really want to get into that?
That is a great question too. You have a lot of great questions today. And I'm sure it's just because you're an expert in this. 20 years you said that you've been doing this?
Something like that, yes.
Something that I'm excited about. Ooh. It's, and I hate to harp collaboration with people that, again, are the experts, that we're working towards building the sort of educational hub of the space. And beyond what I am writing and capable of writing as an expert in my field, getting to come together and not just writing my own collateral, but getting to give space and give a platform to these thought leaders where they're coming together in one place. That's one of our charges that we're working on that I get excited about. I know for me, whenever I read something on LinkedIn, which is of course a great channel, and it's this really compelling piece, I'm like, man, I would love to have more conversation with you. I would love to be able to share your knowledge in a different place. And I'm seeing that be more and more commonplace, where just brilliant minds coming together and being easily found. So wherever that ends up being, whether it's on your own site, it's through LinkedIn, it doesn't matter, but I'm finding personally this excitement of making these relationships and then getting to find places where we're able to collaborate on podcasts, on these blogs, anything like that, where I get to spend time with these brilliant people that I get to learn something from every day, and I know that they are going to teach so many more people, and I love to share that. So education is just a really exciting new component that we get to do, and I'm thrilled about it. So.
I'm excited that you're excited about that.
Thank you.
That's great. Stephanie, final question for you. Where can people go to learn more about Claim.MD?
Absolutely, that's the easiest question. You can go to www.Claim.MD. website, super easy, and then you can always find us on our social media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. We're on all of them.
You're on all the channels.
All the channels.
All the channels. That's a challenge unto itself.
Yes, it is, but we rise above it.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy HIM schedule to be with us here on the program.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Colin. You were wonderful to get to speak with. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, I really want to thank Stephanie for stopping by and telling us about this very back office area of healthcare and how challenging it is for a marketer to be in that space. I really loved her stories about connecting and collaboration. I think that's so important. And hey, it's all about heart in healthcare. And hey, if you made it this far in the video, we'd really appreciate it if you can mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head on over to Swaay.Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.